Can we explore together, my friend, something that happens constantly in your home environment, yet receives so little conscious attention? Your thoughts, from the moment you wake up in your own bed until you fall asleep again that evening. An endless stream of mental activity flows through your consciousness. As you brush your teeth, thoughts about the day ahead arise. While making breakfast, you might find yourself planning conversations, reviewing yesterday's events, or worrying about upcoming challenges. During household chores, your mind often wanders to work problems, relationship dynamics, or future concerns. Even during leisure time at home, thoughts comment on what you're doing, judge your choices, compare your life to others, or escape into fantasies and memories. But how often do you actually observe this mental activity? How often do you step back from being caught in thoughts to watching thoughts arise and dissolve in the spacious awareness that is your true nature? Let us begin this exploration in the most familiar place, your bedroom. When you first wake up, notice what happens in those first moments of consciousness. Before you even open your eyes, thoughts are already forming. Perhaps anxiety about your schedule, excitement about plans, or drowsiness wanting to return to sleep. Usually, you immediately identify with these thoughts, allowing them to determine your mood and direction for the day. But what happens when you simply observe these awakening thoughts without becoming them? Try this gentle experiment when you wake tomorrow. Before reaching for your phone, before jumping into mental planning, simply lie there and watch the thoughts that arise. Notice them the way you might notice birds flying past your window, without judging them as good or bad, without trying to control their direction, without becoming emotionally invested in their content. There's a thought about my meeting today. Now there is a memory from yesterday. Here comes a worry about money. This simple witnessing creates space between you and your mental activity, revealing that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness in which thoughts appear. As you move through your morning routine, countless opportunities arise for observing thought patterns. While showering, you might notice how the mind immediately begins planning the day rather than experiencing the simple pleasure of warm water on your skin. While getting dressed, thoughts might arise about your appearance, your schedule, or your relationships. Instead of being carried away by these mental streams, can you remain present to the physical activity while simply noting the thoughts that arise alongside it? This practice of observation is not about stopping thoughts or controlling them. Thoughts are a natural function of the brain, like breathing is a natural function of the lungs. The invitation is to change your relationship with thoughts, to discover yourself as the witness of mental activity rather than the victim of it. When you observe thoughts without resistance or attachment, something remarkable happens. They lose their compulsive power over your emotions and behavior. The kitchen provides a rich environment for thought observation. While preparing breakfast, notice how the mind often escapes the present moment. You might be physically cutting fruit while mentally rehearsing a difficult conversation with your spouse. You could be making coffee while worrying about your child's performance at school. The body is engaged in nourishing activities while the mind is scattered across time and space, creating stress about situations that are not happening now. What happens when you bring your full attention to food preparation? Feel the texture of ingredients in your hands. Notice the colors and smells. Observe the transformation of raw materials into nourishment. When thoughts arise about other concerns, simply acknowledge them without judgment and gently return your attention to the task at hand. This is not forced concentration, but a gentle practice of presence that allows you to discover the meditative quality available in ordinary domestic activities. Breakfast time offers another opportunity for observation. How do you usually eat your first meal of the day? Are you scrolling through your phone, reading news, mentally reviewing your to-do list? Or are you actually tasting your food? Notice how the mind wants to fill even eating time with information, consumption, or mental planning. But what happens when you eat in silence, giving your full attention to the flavors, textures, and satisfaction of nourishing your body? This conscious eating becomes a form of meditation, a way of practicing presence that affects your entire day. When you eat with attention, you often discover that you need less food to feel satisfied, that you enjoy your meals more fully, and that your digestive system functions more efficiently. More importantly, you begin to understand the difference between being present to your experience and being lost in mental commentary about your experience. Throughout the day, household chores provide perfect opportunities for thought observation. While washing dishes, notice how the mind often treats this activity as boring, something to rush through to get to more important activities. Thoughts might arise about everything else you need to do, complaints about having to clean, or judgments about your housekeeping standards. But what happens when you approach dishwashing as a chance to practice presence? Feel the warm water on your hands. Notice the soap creating bubbles. Observe the transformation of dirty dishes into clean ones. When thoughts arise about other concerns, simply note them and return your attention to the simple, repetitive motions of cleaning. Many people discover that household chores become meditative when approached with attention rather than resistance, providing regular opportunities throughout the day for returning to presence. The living room, where you might spend leisure time, offers unique challenges and opportunities for thought observation. Perhaps you settle in to read a book, but find your mind constantly wandering to other concerns. You read the same paragraph multiple times because your attention is scattered. Or maybe you sit down to watch television and notice how the constant stimulation affects your mental state, creating more agitation rather than the relaxation you sought? What happens when you approach leisure activities with the same quality of observation you bring to other parts of your day? When reading, can you notice when your attention drifts from the page to mental commentary or unrelated concerns? When watching something, can you observe how different types of content affect your emotional state and thought pattern? This is not about judging your entertainment choices, but about becoming conscious of how various activities influence your inner environment. The evening hours often bring their own characteristic thought patterns. As the day winds down, you might find yourself reviewing what happened, analyzing conversations, regretting things you said or did not say, worrying about tomorrow's responsibilities. The mind often becomes more active just when the body is trying to rest, creating the familiar experience of lying in bed with a racing mind despite physical exhaustion. This is an ideal time for gentle thought observation. Instead of fighting with mental activity or judging yourself for thinking when you want to sleep, can you simply watch thoughts arise and dissolve without engaging with their content? Notice how thoughts often come in waves, sometimes intense and compelling, sometimes quiet and subtle. Like weather patterns in the sky, thoughts are constantly changing, and no mental state is permanent. The practice of observing thoughts at home is particularly valuable because your domestic environment is where you spend your most unguarded time. At work or in social situations, you might maintain certain mental disciplines or present particular images, but at home you encounter your raw, unfiltered mental patterns. You see how your mind responds to solitude, to intimacy with family members, to routine activities, to unstructured time. Notice how different areas of your home trigger different thought patterns. The bedroom might activate thoughts about rest, relationships, or dreams. Bathroom might prompt thoughts about your body, health, or appearance. The home office might immediately engage work-related mental activity even during personal time. The kitchen might trigger thoughts about nourishment, family meals, or domestic responsibilities. Each space in your home can become a laboratory for observing how environment influences mental activity. Family interactions provide particularly rich opportunities for thought observation. When your partner expresses frustration about something, notice the immediate mental reactions that arise. Defensive thoughts, problem-solving thoughts, judgmental thoughts, guilty thoughts, all might appear simultaneously. Instead of immediately acting on these mental impulses, can you observe them with curiosity while listening more deeply to what your partner is actually communicating? When your children make demands or create chaos, observe how quickly your mind can shift from peace to irritation, from patience to frustration. Notice the thoughts that justify anger, the mental stories about what good parenting should look like, the comparisons to other families. This observation does not mean becoming passive or failing to provide appropriate guidance. It means responding to family situations from awareness rather than reacting from unconscious mental patterns. Meals with family offer daily opportunities for practicing thought observation in a social context. Notice how your mind often wants to use mealtime for problem-solving conversations, planning discussions, or reviewing the day's events. While practical communication is certainly important, can you also create space for simply enjoying food and each other's presence without the constant mental agenda? The practice of observing thoughts at home gradually reveals patterns you might not have noticed when you were completely identified with mental activity. You might discover that certain times of day trigger particular types of thinking. Maybe mornings bring anxiety thoughts, afternoons bring planning thoughts, evenings bring review and analysis thoughts. You might notice how your mental state affects everyone else in your household, how your stress creates stress in others, how your peace contributes to a calmer domestic environment. You might also begin to distinguish between useful thinking and compulsive thinking. Useful thinking serves practical purposes, planning meals, organizing schedules, solving household problems. Compulsive thinking goes round and round without resolution, worrying about things you cannot control, rehearsing conversations that may never happen, analyzing past events that cannot be changed. As you develop skill in thought observation, you may notice that the quality of silence in your home changes. Instead of silence being filled with mental noise, quiet moments become opportunities for rest and renewal. You might discover that you actually enjoy doing nothing, sitting quietly without entertainment or stimulation, appreciating the simple fact of being alive and aware. The ultimate insight that emerges from observing thoughts at home is recognizing that your true nature is not the constantly changing mental activity, but the awareness in which thoughts arise and dissolve. This awareness is always present, always peaceful, always available, regardless of what thoughts happen to be appearing. When you rest in this recognition, your home becomes not just a physical shelter, but a sanctuary for discovering the peace that is your birthright. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, I invite you to practice this gentle observation one more time. As you lie in bed, simply watch whatever thoughts arise without trying to solve problems, plan tomorrow, or review today. Notice how thoughts naturally slow down when they are not fed by attention and engagement. In this simple watching, in this effortless awareness, you may discover that the peace you have been seeking in so many places has been here all along, waiting to be noticed in the simple recognition of what you truly are, beyond all mental activity.